Staying in touch is just a few clicks away. Get the latest news from a Catholic perspective and so much more. Become a RealCatholicTV.com premium member today.
Dozens are dead after a fatal car bomb is detonated on Easter Sunday. Meanwhile, Catholics in Seattle are distraught as their Easter Vigil Mass is marred by hate speech. And a clash between free speech rights and Islam has protesters hitting the streets. Michael Voris will have a special report from the scene. Those stories and more just ahead on today's Catholic News Roundup.
Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by PewSitter.com, your online Catholic newspaper for the third millennium. CatholicMediaCoalition.org, in line with the Church, online with the world.
And TheAmericanCatholic.com, politics and culture from a Catholic perspective.
Hello and welcome to today's edition of Catholic News Roundup. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. Deadly Muslim bombing. 38 deaths have been confirmed so far after a Muslim terrorist group set off a deadly car bomb on Easter Sunday in Nigeria. The jihadist group Boko Haram is taking responsibility for the attack that took place in the city of Kaduna when a car reportedly tried to enter the All Nations Assembly church compound during its Easter service, detonating after it was turned away from the Christian church's entrance. Associated Foreign Press reports this attack is reminiscent of Boko Haram's Christmas Day bombings that killed dozens as Muslims try to rid the country of Christians and establish an Islamic State. We'll have more on the spread of Sharia law in the United States in a special report from Michael Voris coming up right after the break. Dictator detains freedom fighters. In the wake of the Pope's recent visit to Cuba, socialist dictator Raul Castro is reigniting his wrath on those who stand for liberty, imprisoning anyone who challenges his agenda. The Cuban Commission on Human Rights reports 43 political prisoners have been detained, 10 women and 33 men, most of whom belong to a group that fights for a democratic society called the Patriotic Union of Cuba. This wave of arrests comes after Castro declared Good Friday the first national religious holiday in over 50 years and seems to be a gesture that he does not intend to soften his war against Christianity any further. Easter hate speech. Vandals have visited a Seattle, Washington cathedral for the second time in 2 months, this time making a special effort to display their hatred for Catholicism on Easter Vigil. Over a dozen messages of hate speech were found on St. James Cathedral Easter morning, believed to have been put there late Saturday night or early Sunday morning. The vandals left behind messages on the building walls after defacing a statue of the Blessed Mother, which say things like, quote, "The Catholic Church was not born in the USA," and also calling Catholics child killers. Though security has been strengthened around the cathedral property, Larry Browse, an administrator for St. James Cathedral, clarifies that the graffiti is not really important, saying, quote, "What's happening inside is important, that we're celebrating Easter." Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few seconds with a report from Michael Voris on the establishment of Sharia law in the United States.
Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by NewOxfordReview.org, the voice of Catholic Orthodoxy, in print and on the web, and RenewAmerica.com, expanding the influence of America's grassroots in the cause of freedom.
Welcome back to Catholic News Roundup. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. The fight against the establishment of Sharia law is taking shape particularly in the state of Michigan. This is where we find our own Michael Voris with this special report.
Tensions were high this past weekend in Dearborn, Michigan, as pro-Islamic demonstrators got heated with First Amendment supporters who showed up to support Pastor Terry Jones. First Amendment supporters had to run a gauntlet of loud and angry pro-Islam demonstrators, calling them racists and chanting obscenities. The city of Dearborn is home to the largest Arab population outside the Middle East, as well as the largest mosque in North America. Dearborn also has an established history of trying to squelch free speech rights when Christians choose to exercise those First Amendment rights and decry what they see as an encroachment of Sharia law. Pastor Terry Jones traveled from Florida this Easter weekend to continue his battle against what he calls supporters of Sharia law in America.
Islam is a religion that has also with it a very brutal governing force called Sharia.
Jones is the pastor who literally set off a firestorm last year when he set fire to a Quran, sparking riots and violence in various parts of the Muslim world.
We just cannot allow people to come in and try to threaten other people's right to worship as they should choose.
Whether it be Muslims, Christians, Hindus, we respect their First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion.
But while the pro-Islamic side is anxious to portray this as a freedom of religion issue, the real underlying issue is free speech. When Jones applied for a permit to return to Dearborn and continue his original protest from last year when he was arrested, the city told him this time he had to sign what's called a hold harmless agreement before granting him a permit to speak in public. That document says in effect that any violence or destruction of property that occurs owing to his presence, including injuries and possibly even deaths, he would be held responsible for. That brought an immediate action from the Thomas More Law Center, a national public interest law firm based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, whose mission is to restore and defend America's Judeo-Christian heritage and moral values and to promote a strong national defense. They filed a suit on behalf of Jones, charging the city of Dearborn was violating his free speech rights by imposing this document on him. The court agreed with the Thomas More Law Center and declared the city of Dearborn's actions a violation of Jones's freedom of speech. So despite what these anti-Jones, pro-Islam demonstrators may say about the city of Dearborn keeping out what they call racist pigs, the court firmly disagrees. Dearborn does not have the right to prevent freedom of speech through the use of administrative tactics and legal paperwork.
I think that was a wrong decision, and I certainly think the way that things are set up today restricts everybody else in Dearborn's right.
I'm here to protest Sharia law, and I'm here to protest for free speech rights for Terry Jones, and I'm here defending free speech rights for everyone. If one person loses their free speech rights, we all lose our free speech rights. So I'm here speaking out for everyone's First Amendment rights.
We definitely feel that they tried to, through those different events, stop our freedom of speech, and we have now been here 4 times. I mean, one time we were taken to court. Now this time they wanted us to sign that hold harmless agreement. They wanted us to acquire special insurance. Those are, I think, obviously, they also have in Dearborn, I believe, 4 or 5 free speech areas. Definitely, I believe those are all tactics to stop freedom of speech.
Many people are fearful of the establishment or implementation of Sharia law by radical Islamists in the United States because of affairs in other parts of the world. In fact, at almost the exact same moment that Jones was protesting out front of the mosque in Dearborn on Easter weekend, Muslim terrorist groups were blowing up Christians with car bombs in Nigeria, just as they did over Christmas, in an effort there to Islamicize the entire country.
The First Amendment is what we stand on.
But regardless of what someone thinks of Jones' opinions, thanks to the action filed by the Thomas More Law Center, he was assured of his right to voice those opinions, the same right exercised by the angry mob protesting him.
The Muslim community is under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. When the Muslim community is under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back.
Reporting for the Thomas More Law Center, this is Michael Voris, Dearborn, Michigan.
And if you'd like to see more pictures from this report, just point your browsers to our Facebook fan page, facebook.com/RealCatholicTV. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. Thanks for tuning in today. Be sure and tune in tomorrow for your daily dose of Catholic News Roundup, right here on RealCatholicTV.com. Also be sure to check out The Vortex, where Michael talks about opening up the video vault and another reason St. Michael's Media is celebrating in this Easter season. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to tell all your friends about us, and as always, God bless you.